get into it. In 2019,
Sure.
when these enumerators were sent across the country by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics,
Yes.
and they came to our homes at night,
Yes.
and they were asking our gender. This time, there was a different word that they were using: male, female, or intersex.
Yes.
And even thereafter, when they released the statistics, then they told us there are more than 1,500 persons of intersex
Yes.
gender in the country. People are like, what does that mean? So what is intersex?
Thank you, Eric. I just want also to correct something before I respond to your question. You just mentioned that there was intersex gender. I want to clarify that there's nothing called intersex gender.
What is it?
It's called intersex marker.
Marker.
Gender is a social construction. A guy should be in the kitchen, a man should be herding. But sex is a biological characteristic of the anatomy, of the hormones, of the gonads, and of, let's say, chromosomes. Yeah, so I think we have to start from there. Then back to your question. You're asking what is intersex?
Yes.
Eric and my friend here, I really want to simplify this as much as possible in the slowest manner possible, because it's now the big elephant in the house. Intersex, Eric and Duo, is a biological sex characteristics that is not categorized in the common binary of male or female. That means it's in between, and it's in terms of 4 items. One, in terms of the anatomy. When a mother goes to the hospital and they're expecting, after that pain, you want to see the child, the first question they ask is it a boy or a girl? Then a doctor or a midwife looks at you with mixed reactions, because they cannot tell from what they see. It's neither a vagina, it's neither a penis. But remember, this condition is inherent, it's inborn. In terms of chromosomes, if you remember your biology, a man has 46 XY, while a woman should be having 46 XX. For these children, because of the mixed, kind of the mixed sexual characteristics, you'll find that an intersex child is born with either an extra or a lesser. For example, I was born with 47 XXY. So biologically speaking, I leaned more towards
Female.
female.
So you're born with 47XX.
Why?
Why?
Meaning I had an extra
chromosome.
X.
Because normally you'd be 46XX or 46XY.
Yes. In terms of the gonads, women have ovaries, men have testicles. An intersex child will be born with either ovotestis, an ovary, and a testicle. Like in my case, I had an ovary on the left, a testicle on the right. But they were suspended. So for 9 years before I was taken to Kenyatta National Hospital to start the journey, it was too late. They were palatile.
What do you mean
What does that
suspended?
mean?
Descended means they were above the crotch. Testicles are supposed to be hanging.
Yes.
The ovary is supposed to be in.
Yes.
And because of that condition, it means already it was too late, and they were becoming tumorous. That's when I go to Kenyatta, they were supposed to be removed. And in any case, I did not have the uterus. That is the mixed sexual characteristics.
So you have an ovary, you don't have a uterus.
Yes. And then there was a testicle.
And then there's the testicle on the other side.
Yes, then there's a penis.
Okay.
Then,
Continue.
in
Four.
terms of hormones, the fourth one is hormonal aspect. Men have testosterone. You have a deep voice because your level of testosterone is higher than Dua, for example, who has a high level of estrogen. So in terms of intersex persons or children, they'll be born with hormonal imbalance.
Okay.
Like you see, for me, I had more of estrogen, so I had to be put on testosterone, which I'm using to date. So this is the simplest way to tell people that this is inherent condition. It's a biological condition. It has no control. You cannot change sex because of the genetics. Yes.
Okay. So essentially, what does it mean then for an intersex person? Because it could be on either side, right? Okay. So what does it then mean for an intersex person born that way? Obviously, depending on which side one is leaning, then, or how would then one choose which gender then to want to go towards? Because at birth, it is almost impossible to identify which one specifically they are because of the physiological presentation. So then how does one decide which leaning you will take?
I still want to repeat, I'm really discouraging the use of gender.
Okay.
Which sex?
Sex, all right.
Yeah.
So which sex then?
One, like I said, when a child is still young, it's very difficult to tell whether, depending on what is the presentation, but in intersex conditions, you'll see that it comes out mostly during the adolescent stage. That is the time when the body now really kind of takes its own, direction. But in terms of what time, then we're telling people that these such children should be taken to the hospital, should be, access to the medical examinations to tell for sure at what point. Because like for me, you see, when I went to hospital, it was too late at the age of 9. But again, we're also telling people that don't make a decision for these children. Let parents not make a decision for the children, or even doctors, unless the condition is actually, the child's life is at risk. But during the adolescence, that's the time now the body starts taking. I know people confused. They say an intersex person has both. Both what? No, it's normally, mostly it's internal. It's all around the genitals. And there's no one point an intersex child, person will have both organs working. It to have there's some dominance. So when you're taken to the doctor, depending on what really needs to be kind of, which is your dominance, then that is it. But the challenge we're having right now is that most of the intersex persons, I don't know why, it's actually research to be done, why 90% of intersex persons I've interacted with, initially they were socialized as girls. Then later on, 70% are turning out to self-recognize as men as they grow up.
Okay. So their parents initially basically categorized them as girls and treated them as girls as they were bringing
And they
them
went
up.
to schools as girls up to high school. Right now we are having cases where one of my colleagues went up to high school as a girl, then to university. Now it's James Karanja. India was Mary Karanja, Mary someone. So you see,
I want to go back into now understanding these 4 areas that you've given us because they're critical.
Yeah.
2 of them are more physical and visual than the others: the anatomy and the gonads.
yes,
At the point when a mother is going through the antenatal visits and they're doing the scans, is a doctor able to tell what's happening? Because
No.
you see, that's where you start telling, all right, so you can actually even tell that you're carrying a boy or you're carrying a girl. At that point during antenatal visits, can a doctor tell that I am not sure what I'm seeing?
now, and Eric, remember, like during my time, rarely, were this kind of, experiments,
Access to such services.
access to such services.
Yes.
And surprisingly, most of intersex persons are even, poverty, it's the order of the day. I've never understood why. So, right now that probably we're talking about this and we're sensitizing the medical practitioners, they should be able. Unfortunately, I'm not a medical practitioner, so I cannot really tell whether, at what point they can see whether this child is or not.
Okay.
And then at that point of birth then, so just like you said, a mother has gone through labor, she's been delivered of the baby, and the nurse is holding the baby.
Yes.
And you say the nurse then looks and cannot answer because the first question is it a boy or a girl?
Yeah.
And then they cannot answer. So what normally is happening at that point?
At that point, what normally is happening is there's confusion between an enlarged clitoris and a mini penis.
Okay.
There's that opening between the crotch normally, where there's supposed to be testicles. You'll find that there are no testicles, but they're just there's a hanging skin with like a small opening down there. So a nurse or doctor looks at this and wonders, is this a penis or is it a clitoris?
Okay.
Is this opening? And most of the time, you say that urine is not coming through here; it's coming through down
It's
here.
coming from the
That is
grower.
what brings the confusion because there are no testicles. There's a small penis or an enlarged clitoris, and so it brings a lot of confusion.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I said, normally the testicles will be and descend inside.
Right. You did say, then, as they then get later on in life, that there will be a dominance of
Yes.
one of the sexes. How does that then present itself? The later on, then, how does this dominance present itself?
I'll give an example. If a person was socialized as a girl, and most of the cases we're having right now, one was socialized as a girl, you get to, to the age of 12, 13, then the voice breaks.
Yeah.
Then you start developing masculinity, the muscles starts developing. Yeah?
Yep.
And vice versa. A boy was socialized as a boy, but then as they grow up, by there I have, Eric, you'll be surprised, I have quite a number of my colleagues who went through school as boys. Then, after high school, they go to college. I have a guy who went to a medical college. Then they start seeing periods. So then it confuses. Meaning, this person was born with an ovary, but they did not know because they have never accessed medical examination or checkup.
Yeah.
So as the body responds naturally, then period starts coming out. That's how the body presents.
But in such cases, Dr. Wamalwa, is it that this person, as they were growing up, even their parents did not see those clear visual differences in their genitalia?
They could have seen Eric, but now, culturally, this has been looked up as a bad omen.
So they don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it.
And so
They have
this
been
girl
hiding.
believes
Yes.
that this is how she
This
should
is how
be.
she should.
Okay. Or the boy believes that this is how he
they
should
should.
be. And then now they start getting the monthly period and they get into total confusion.
Total confusion.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay, so then even as we're talking about that, then the stigma around intersex people must be very, very high and almost impenetrable. Because if we just think about, when parents have children with who are born with disability, for example, already the kind of stigma that faced in society is humongous. Now we can imagine something like this, whereby a child has been born and because of the presentation, you're not sure if it's a girl or boy. I can imagine that then the stigma would be, monumental.
It is. And let me tell you, that's one of the reasons, the issues of stigma, discrimination, rejection, breaking of families. Most of intersex persons are from single parenthood because mothers were, kind of disbanded by, were kind of rejected by, or even the families, the communities. There's this aspect of no one should know that in this family, or no one should ever see this child naked.
Yeah.
So stigma starts from the moment a child is born, right from even either the hospital level, and then through school. Why most intersex persons drop out of school? Because, like I said, because of that anatomy. If it was not corrected, then imagine you are a boy, you're supposed to stand as you pass urine.
Yep.
But now you cannot use this kind of a facility.
You never go to the urinals with the other boys.
Yes. And then in school, you have to wake up very in the morning, go shower before. Some of us went to, at least I went to a religious school where, it was a bit private. But most people, drop out of school because of that. And then I know of friends, even children, who were kind of ridiculed, bullied in schools. And, such like things. So stigma is enormous and it cuts across all the way from the policy, legal, institutional, and administrative, entities. And this is why we're saying we really have to make sure that people understand. And by the way, Eric and my friend, intersex persons are all over. Look at the statistics. And they are brothers and sisters. They are people. So, yeah, we need to understand.
What are the statistics? If we're looking at population and then do a comparative, how many are we looking at?
From the research that was done, globally, between 0.05 to 1.7 of the entire population, children are born intersex. If we have to go by this kind of figures, then looking at the Kenyan population of 46 plus million, then it means in Kenya we have between 300,000 to 700,000 intersex persons. myself was never even counted, because even the officers who went asking or never asked. And that's why. And
So
by
they
the way-
didn't ask you?
No, I was never asked, because my
They
ID
just
reads
looked
male.
at you and they
Yes, and ticked.
ticked.
And ticked.
Because this was happening a lot. So someone just comes and then they're wondering, how do I ask this question
Yes,
of this
yes,
other
yeah.
person? Because usually, how do you ask? How do you ask?
Yeah.
Are you male or female?
Yeah.
Like,
How do you can't?
nonsense. Can't you just look at me and see?
And intersex persons were recorded across all the counties for information, and through all the ages up to 90. So we've had intersex
We've
persons
had them for long.
For long.
A question that may seem a bit absurd: is it seen as something wrong? And I'm not talking about right or wrong morally. I'm talking about wrong physiologically that then needs to be fixed. An intersex person at birth, an intersex person with their parents, is it something that then says, okay, well, here we are we going to wait until 10, 12 to seek medical intervention? Is that always front and center in the minds of parents or families?
I think this comes with what we deem as normal and abnormal. It is a condition that is not so used to people's minds. Even imagine yourself as a parent, you're seeing such a child. So one, it throws into confusion.
Yeah.
It throws you into fear. You're not really ready even to talk about it, because it's not normal, what they consider not normal. So I think, and that's why we're saying, with awareness, surprisingly, attention of people are coming out. Since I got this position and we're in the field, people are coming out and not talking about it, because now we're educating them. Yeah, so it's just a matter of what is not normal, and what's normal always will cause some fear in people's minds. And so to seek for support becomes a challenge unless they get, to be guided.
A lot of this then will come from the people who know or should know, helping the people who don't know. All right. So let's go into that position, into that place in the maternity ward, and the mother has been delivered of the baby, and here is a medical professional, nurse, doctor, whoever. What should they do at this particular point when they're holding the child and they notice that this is probably an intersex child? What should that medical professional do?
In my opinion, I think the first thing they should do is to have the mother taken through some social support, some counseling, some information. They have to be explained, but it also depends at what time.
Yep.
So in my opinion, they should be able to explain to the mother that, of course, we were having a child, but we think you need some rest. We need to do some examination, for example, or we need to take this child for further, medical examination, though not at the birth. But in my opinion, the first thing I think a professional should do is to take the mother for counseling, for information, for empowerment, to understand what kind of a child, if they have to leave that also, they are living with, and to explain to them at what point they need to come back to the medical practitioner, for example, for follow-up. Yes.
But you see, this is a very public place. So a child has been born. The first thing that they do is they tag a child. They tag a child with the name of the mother and the gender. All right? And then the child is then taken to the nursery.
Yeah.
So others are seeing. How do we, protect the privacy of these people until at least the point when the mother, the father, and other close relatives have been taken through that process?
So then the medical practitioner should find a safe space for this kind of a mother. A safe space, Eric, you don't have to have all the curtains or such like a room. Let him just get some curtains, for example, get a separate room for this child. We can always, within the medical facility, find something, work around something. Yeah. For me, safe space is more important. Yes.
Okay. What are some of the things you had to deal with then? I mean, usually, Prof, it's your experience then that then fuels what then people can come together with and maybe sometimes form, principles to live by. What was your experience from what you can remember from the time, you were a young child to that point whereby you said you had to go to hospital, and for us to also understand then what intersex people go through, what they go through? What was your experience from the time you were a young child to having to go to hospital?
One, I think when I was about 4 years or something, I noticed something was not right. My father always would want to accompany me when I go to kind of pee. He will always force me, say, you know what you do? You hold it like this, because my urine used to go backwards. So my father always used to tell me, no, what you do, you stand like this, but it was not possible. So I knew something was not right. At the age of 6, 7, when playing, herding with friends, we used to go swimming. I could see something was not right because my penis was held by something, was facing backwards. Swimming, so until most of the time I used to be told, don't be seen naked. I don't know. Where I come from, we circumcised. And I'm told I was a very active young person. Between 9, 10, 11, 12. So at the age of 9, my father realized this one, I can go kwa maji hivi. You must. So if I was to go the traditional way, then there will be a problem when I get to, because now they do it traditionally, no medical intervention, something. So I was hooked from home by my elder brother. May his soul rest in peace. But so then, where I come from, we go to fetch water, and for me, I was doing almost everything. Every time we could go for fetch water, then the neighbors, during the childhood, mamas were like, "Hey, this is a beautiful boy. He should have been born a girl." I mean, this is a beautiful boy. I mean, this is a wonderful boy. He should have been born a girl. Then, as I was growing up, of course, now from the age of 9, I started operations. Surprising some of the challenges I went through, even with the medical practitioner. I was like being taken to a mechanic, like a car being taken to a mechanic. I was never told why I was having surgery after surgery.
So nobody was explaining.
Nobody was explaining, because I think at that time maybe they thought, the doctors and my brother thought they were protecting because they thought I was young, I could not understand. But surprisingly, at one point in time, I overheard them discuss, because I could be kicked out of the medical room for them to discuss. So I had them tell my brother, this one, it would be easier for him to be converted into a girl than a man. My father said no. I told my brother, you know what? 4th floor. To date, by the way, you go to Kenya Kenya National Hospital. Kenyatta, yeah. 4th floor, 12. I think that's where most of these intersex persons are. That was 4th floor. I told my brother, you try that, I'm jumping next day. And he said no. So you see, that confusion, lack of disclosure. Yeah. And probably, my brother was like, I came with a child at 9 years home. He's supposed to be circumcised. How do I go back with Elizabeth from Dennis? He said no. So then the journey. So the doctors told him, if that be ready. It's not going to be easy. To date, Eric, I've undergone major. I only count major. By the way, I forgot I have a book there. I've done a book. 39 major operations. Major means I've been in theater for more than 2 hours to 12 hours. This 1 hour, I
39 times.
Yes. To
Since
be what I am
that
today.
age of 9
yes.
to
And
now
those,
where you are.
Yes, and those are only major ones.
And in the meantime, you've gone through school, you've gone through your undergrad, you've gone through your master's, you have a PhD,
I'm telling you.
and you have worked in the areas that you've worked.
That was my only solace. Books. That was my only solace.
Let's continue that journey shortly. Let's first take a break. It's 26 minutes to 8. Do you understand what an intersex person is? Do you know what that is? Well, that's what we are discussing this morning. We have the first person to hold a public office in Kenya and in the world as an intersex person. He is Commissioner Dr. Dennis Wamalwa, a commissioner with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. The commission has drafted a bill. It's called the Intersex Persons Bill 2024, and that's what we're discussing today. First, to understand what intersex is all about, and then to understand what the bill is seeking to achieve.
Spice.
Intersex person to hold a state office anywhere in the world. He is a commissioner with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. He's here to talk to us through the Intersex Persons Bill that's been drafted by the Commission. Dr. Wamalwa holds a PhD in Peace and Conflict Studies from Masinda Muliro University of Science and Technology and a Master's of Arts in Counseling Studies from the University of Manchester in the UK. He has worked for many years in very many organizations before joining the Commission. He has also, worked with students as well. You have supervised several master students.
And published.
And published also in various journals. Good stuff. You are taking us through your journey.
Yeah.
Born in this state of confusion for you and for your parents, for everybody around you, until that age when, at the age of 9, when
I was taken to hospital.
your father and your elder brother came together and they took you to hospital.
Yeah.
And you now started this journey.
Sure.
Since then, you've had how many operations again?
The ones I can remember, like I said, I've only
Major
been
operations.
major ones, 39. And
39 major
yes,
operations.
yes.
To do what exactly?
To do what we're calling normalization, and which, of course, when we talk of the bill, this is something that's also very debatable. Do we really need to subject intersex persons to all this, for example? Because most of the time, by the way, interestingly, an intersex, it's a condition. It's never painful. Okay, in my experience, we have over 46 variations of intersex persons. So at times they say, if it ain't broken, well,
Don't fix it.
we can only fix if it's really threatening one's life. Because probably if we went by the doctor's decision, probably maybe I'll have gone through lesser operations. But I don't regret. As at that time, they were doing the best.
It's the best that they thought that they...
Yes, in my interest as at that time. And I'm happy.
Because what we're trying to do is move you into one of the sexes.
Exactly.
Make you either male or female.
Yeah, this one they're trying to make me male.
And what you're saying now is you don't have to do this.
Unless it's really threatening. And this is what we're telling medical practitioners. Because, Eric, remember, I know of people who hurriedly, their mothers or parents, took them to hospital, and what they perceived to be a small penis or clitoris was chopped off. Then later on, as they grow, you realize that now the body leans towards that direction, and they need it. And remember, these surgical operations are irreversible.
Yeah.
You chop off something, Eric,
This is it.
That is it. And this is why we're saying, probably, one, legally, I'm not a lawyer, but legally we're saying, can we give it time? If it's not something paining, if not threatening a person's life, can we give it time until the time now when the body starts responding and the person now, at the age of 14, 13, 15, 16, I think one will be able to know this is exactly what they want. Then they can make a decision that, okay, you want to change, let me go this direction.
Okay. I have a two-part question, right? The first part is based on what you've just said, that really this does not affect your life in any way, does not cause you pain. The kind of pain that it would cause you is the psychological, and that is only in the event that somebody knew. When you were growing up, of course, when then, amongst other children, that is it. But in terms of anything else, you really don't feel it. You don't feel pain. There's no harm to you in any way, right? Yeah. It is now a psychological thing later that you can decide, okay, maybe I want to move in this way or another.
Sure.
Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. It's psychological because until the time you see, when I was a teenager, and then my body now, was very curvy. But then, initially I used to look like, wow, wonderful. I should show you photos after this.
You were a girl.
You were
You're
so
a cute girl. Even your neighbors were saying.
Yes. Every time, I'll show you. Every time I'll get in a matatu, I used to fight with touts. Madam, lete, psychological. So, what is he seeing in me? I know I'm a man. Why is he calling me madam? Madam.
That's what he can see.
Yeah, I had to go for karate, Eric, for self-protection. Until one time, my brother Tom, Christian brother, who is a psychologist I met at Amani, asked me for the photos of my brother, my mom and my sisters. So I gave my mother's photo. So he said, why are you fighting the world for looking like your mother? That's the time I stopped. Then now, he started taking me through counseling. Actually, I am because he's my mentor. He's still around, yeah.
Now, of all the things that you've said, in the next question then is, why then in the LGBTQI is intersex? Why is the I intersex, and why has intersex been put together with these other groups?
Duo, that is a $1 million question. What I want to say is it's actually the question also been asking ourselves. We've been asking ourselves. I think probably for lack of understanding that I have the authority. I have no moral authority to discuss LGBTQ because I have no authority over the same. But I speak for I because I is a medical condition. It's not a choice. It's not about gender. So I've never understood why, and that's why we're saying probably it's highest time we get to understand this, because most of intersex persons have been marginalized within the same spectrum. Because one, they're not empowered enough, unlike these other groups. No? And two, when we put I in this kind of spectrum, then it's going to cause more confusion. They're likely even to slight also because they don't understand. So for me, it's a biological condition. It's not a choice. It's not something you can change, and so they need support. And they need to be protected in all ways. But like I said, we protect everybody's
Right.
rights.
Dr. Wamalwa, I've got to ask you this question. So you've taught us through and taken us through what intersex is. How do you distinguish between the term intersex and hermaphrodite?
Hermaphrodite was a term that was used then, which is very derogative.
It's a derogative term.
It's a derogative term. It might mean the same, but you see, it violates the dignity of intersex persons. That's why right now we're using intersex persons instead of hermaphrodites, because that is very derogative. Hermaphrodites is used for animals. We're not hyenas. That is the basis on which we're saying is now intersex, not hermaphrodite, because of the dignity of the persons we're talking about.
Okay. So what does the bill that has been drafted, what does the bill then seek to do or seek to establish in Kenya?
Thank you. And I'll be very brief on that. It's just one objective. The bill, one, seeks to recognize, protect, and safeguard the intersex persons' human rights in Kenya in terms of giving equal opportunities. Go to Public Service Commission. We're saying intersex persons are not disabled. They can work. Let them given chances. In terms of affirmative action, during the last elections, I'm proud to say that through the Commission, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and ICJ, International Commission of Jurists, we had what we call affirmative action, and ICJ supported us to recruit over 23 intersex persons. In the commission, we had like 3-4 who were dispatched across the country to monitor and observe elections. That was a step. And believe you me, since then, people are coming out. So if they can and they delivered, then why not? The bill is saying, let's have non-discriminative kind of actions against the intersex person. Why should they be discriminated? I have, like the other day during the public participation in Kakamega, Vihiga actually, there's a colleague called Fanis. She's an intersex. She has done IECD, got all the, which number, this the TSA number, but she had never been employed. I took her to the governor, we made the CS, we just took a call and said, oh, okay, that is the marginalization you're saying. But you see, because of lack of awareness, because we reached out, this lady, in the next 2 weeks, she should be having permanent employment.
But how could I discriminate against you, though, if I look at you and I would not be able to tell?
Yep.
How would I discriminate against you until you, Prof, would tell us that you're intersex? It is impossible for me to know. I would not treat you one way or another.
You're not 100% sure. I'll give you an
How would I
example.
discriminate? But we're saying that there's discrimination against intersex people. But we're also saying that by merely looking at somebody, you cannot tell
Let me give you an
if this
example.
person is intersex. So then
Sure.
how can I discriminate?
Let me tell you how you
discriminate
can.
against Yeah.
I have a colleague at the commission. She's called Gloria. When you look at Gloria, comes before you, you'll see a man. She's gone for recruitment, police recruitment. So when she stands here and says, wewe,
Pande
enda
yako
kwa hiyo
ni
line
ile.
nyingine.
Okay.
Akienda kwambia wewe, enda huko. Social amenities. We've come to her rescue several times for impersonation. She's going to pick a document at Easy Coach. She produces the ID because she took it some times back with some hair, young, beautiful girl. Now, pimpy, and then,
Yep.
deep voice. Several times she calls, we have to go to the rescue. So this is how people can be discriminated by saying.
I can also see systemic discrimination,
Yes.
just like you've said, because then that person cannot go to a male's washroom.
Exactly.
So this person is basically forced to go to a female's washroom, and yet they're not.
And even from the female, you'll be kicked out because you're in between.
You're in between.
between.
There are people who are in there who would look at you.
Yeah.
So we basically need to have those 3 doors.
I've had people who have
There's
to
a
hold
male
their-
door, a female door, and have an intersex door. The same way we have also one for disabilities.
Exactly.
Have a similar kind of facility.
Exactly.
Right. But for jobs, say the Public Service Commission, the National Police Service Commission, the Kenya Defence Forces, and those others that do these massive recruitment drives, how does discrimination present itself?
Sorry?
How are you discriminated? How are intersex persons discriminated? Because you appear there, yes, you sign in your gender, you say male, female. If not for the ones that are physical, like the police and the KDF, say they are PS positions, when you applied for the commission job.
Okay, let me just give you an example of, let's say, this kind of, not commissioner, public commissioner, in terms of services, how one can be discriminated. Let's go to sports. Most of intersex persons, there's some energy, yeah? There's a lady who was very good, in football. So one time they were playing, then when she called Mercy, when she just kicked, pop, everybody was like, no.
Yeah, that's not a girl's kick.
She was, that's not a girl's kick.
She
was pulled aside
and
stripped.
We have to
She
check.
stopped playing ever.
Yeah.
You see, these are some of the discrimination. And we're saying the CS of sports has to pick it up and make sure that we have equal opportunities. Because if so, unfortunately, we don't have enough numbers. Say now we have to play, only intersex. And we're saying we want to mainstream intersex persons in all, be it policy, administrative,
So practically, how would you like the CS for sports to implement this? Say that if a child says that they want to play and compete as male, they should be allowed to compete as
Exactly, yeah. We have the law. He should make sure we have the law.
No questions asked.
No questions asked. Why would you ask? Yes.
To avoid mischief, Dr. Amanda.
What kind of mischief? The fact that I have enough, energy in my leg to score against you, what kind of mischief is that?
Well, maybe a boy wants to compete in a girls' game just so they can have a leg
Why
up.
would a boy compete in a girls' game? And that's why,
To have a leg up, to have the opportunity to win.
No. And you see, we don't just go to have this kind of act enacted, but also we have to have some kind of... we're now talking about the medical records for intersex person, for example. You'll have to have a medical record to show that, of course, you need more this. So that will now shield you from going to play with girls when you're more of men.
Okay.
Taking us now actually back to at that point in hospital and the registration of persons. How should that be conducted?
Right now, what we are saying, thanks God, during the census now we have the I, and actually, we're working with all the institutions. Right now with KCD, we're having we're working towards having the I, the DCI, we have already the I. We're working with all the institutions to make sure that they are including the I. So right now, what we're saying, and this is what the bill is suggesting, that a child has a right to be registered as an intersex and not others. Because already we are recognized in the country. This is the kind of awareness that's going across even the medical setup, even from...
But you said, let's avoid assigning sex and gender for a child until that point when
they're discovering.
They are discovering themselves.
You got me wrong. We're saying at birth, if the medical professional is not so sure whether male or female, right now we have a provision, and that's what we're working for. Then let them either put an I, not a question mark, or a note that this child is neither this or this until it's officially in documentation, because it's something, it's work in progress. We have these documents fully put in place.
So in your birth certificate, you will have that. You'll either have the I or a note from the doctor. Right?
For now, until this bill goes through and all the documentation is now fully. But remember, in the census, there's an I. So right now, all the doctors know that if a child is born and then so sure, it's an I.
You put I.
We put I instead of others or question mark.
Okay. And this should also happen now in school. When you go to school and the first thing that you're doing is registering for NEMIS, there should be an I in NEMIS.
In NEMIS, there should be an I. That
this person, we know that we have X number of boys, X number of girls, and X number of intersex sitting for the grade 6 exams and all.
And through affirmative action, we have schools already who have actually adopted this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what do we do about those single-gender schools? They're girls' schools, they're boys' schools. Should we have intersex schools?
No. If we say we're going to have separate intersex schools, then we're going to be part of the team that's discriminating, this kind of gender. What we are saying is that we want to mainstream. That's why we're going to schools. That's why we're coming to media. That's why you people are educating, the society, that intersex is part of the society, and let them just be within the schools. What we are now asking is, in terms of facilities, like we have some schools, Eric, who have accepted, intersex children to use the staff toilets because they cannot use the common toilet for fear of discrimination. That is the support we need.
Okay.
So what we're saying is, we want to mainstream intersex persons in our society without any discrimination. We cannot have schools separately for this because it's not a disability. Like
I see an issue though. Let me explain. Like you've said, so if a child goes to a girls' school and they're intersex, another one goes to a boys' school and they're intersex, you want still within that school there to be facilities for them. You want a girls' school to have an intersex bathroom, an intersex toilet, and that this child has come into a girls' school. You want the same. In a boys' school, there should be an intersex toilet. Is that not discrimination?
No, let me contextualize this. When it comes to people living with disability, the toilets, for example, do we have male or female?
No, you just have a disability.
We just have a disability. When we go to functions right now, we're using these portable. Do we have male or female in functions? We don't. This is what we're saying. That in schools, let's go back to our homes. In our homes, Eric, do you have a toilet saying female, male? This is what we're saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
How many people that are intersex are pushing along the battle lines with you for this bill in Kenya?
Wow, I'm getting a lot, enormous kind of support. Right now, it's hardly 1 year. Right now we have over 100. I actually have a list of adult, meaning, let's say from 18, we have people who have now come out and they're pushing for this. And we have groups. We have Intersex Person Society of Kenya. IPSK. Intersex Person
Society of Kenya.
Society of Kenya. James, the director, and Ryan, they're really pushing. We have Kwamboka, who just, via the other day. And next time, I want to be sure he gets the seat. He was number 2. Yeah, with Jinze Yangu, they're pushing. We have quite a number across the country. And through this bill and through the public participation, every year we're celebrating now in every October we're celebrating International Intersex Persons Bill. And for information, people are coming. The other day, I had a delegation from Ghana. They're coming to benchmark from us because the best practice.
Are we going to be the first country in Africa who
we are we are already.
We are the first country in Africa to have this kind of bill.
Not in terms of this bill, yeah, I think so, because inclusion of intersex persons in census in the continent we're the first one in the world with that to include in the census. We're the second after Australia.
Very good.
Yeah, so as a government, we're doing well.
We're trailblazing.
Absolutely.
Dr. Wamalwa, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for coming to educate us about this and for creating the awareness about the intersex bill. Yes, when it goes to Parliament, we'll still follow through.
Yeah, sure.
And see that the conversation continues.
Thank you.
Dr. Dennis Wamalwa is the first intersex person to hold a state office in Kenya, in Africa, and the world. He is a commissioner with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. The commission has drafted the Intersex Persons Bill, which will follow through and see how far it goes through Parliament.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.